Hi, guys. Today, I'm so excited to share with you an intro level conversation on the Enneagram, internal family systems, and couples. Oh my gosh, what fun. This is one of my favorite topics, of course, Enneagram, but also the couples work with IFS. So you might remember Melissa Kircher came on, talked about an intro to IFS. Since then, I've had requests from my collective on IFS. And after reading the exploratory book by Richard Schwartz, I have also taken the course by Pessy. I love to take their courses. They're just continuing ed for people in the therapy coaching realm and applying IFS model in couples therapy, working with the inner parts for reconnection and deeper intimacy. That's a course you can also take out there if you want to. You can also listen to me talk on a deeper dive level about that. And then for those of you who are actually watching on video too, there's a great book out for couples also. You are the one you've been waiting for. So that's a great one also by Richard Schwartz about how you can apply internal family systems to internal intimate relationships. So I'm excited. If you're like, what are you talking about? Where are you? Come back to me now. What we're talking about is helping individuals and queer couples get to the space where they feel comfortable and safe together. And the way we're doing that, especially today in a very general way, just to get you started, is we're reminding you of some of the ways we can do that internally. You've probably heard me talk on this podcast before about external family systems therapy or coaching the family system. But what Richard Schwartz does and what he learned to do 40 years back was to stop just looking at the system on the outside. That's so important. But also to say, what's going on with the system within? How are we hurting ourselves? How can we help ourselves more? And what can we do when our systems override each other and block us from doing our important emotional work? So I'm going to share with you a baseline few tips and tools for that. And as I said, you can also check out our deeper dive Apple podcast episodes on Wednesdays every week. And this is the new series. However, also just a big welcome to our new collective members. I'm so glad you're here. The doors are closed right now, but you can always email us at enneagramandmarriage@gmail.com if you want to get on a wait list. And also, there's always great things going on here. So don't forget Tyler Zach's Ennea Summit for Mental Health. That's coming up. I can't wait. And it is going to be such a refreshing part of next week because this week has been very hot here in Florida. I am praying for everybody out there who is affected by tropical storm turned Hurricane Debbie. My family was affected in some very small ways with an air conditioner glitch, but so many people that we know, and we've been watching on the news with you guys, but also seeing people driving around neighborhoods and taking footage and friends telling us their stories. We've had friends with roofs that have caved in. We've had friends who have had their water up to, their midriff. And we just know that there's a lot of need here in a way that to me feels, we haven't seen final counts, but feels bigger than Hurricane Ian in a lot of ways 2 years ago, because I think there's no comparing sometimes when you had personal trauma, but it just feels like a sneak attack to Sarasota and Manatee counties of Florida, which is where I live. So be praying for them if you're a person of prayer, and also supporting if there's other ways you're supporting as well. So grateful for a good community, and I feel grateful that everyone is okay. Otherwise, it's just one of those moments in our center of the world, which in your centers of the world, there's so much going on there too. And we feel for all of us at different moments. So please keep sharing your concerns. That's our joy, is to, share our hope and our refreshment with others who need it, and then send some love our way too right now, and some breath, some refreshment, some air. That'd be great too. But IFS, we're coming back to this topic. We really do know that when we're dysregulated, when we're off together, this is when it's so hard to really find our way back to the light. It's so hard to say, oh, I'm doing really, really well, when we're not internally, right? So sometimes we might say, I don't have all the self-care going. That's true, Christa. You probably always hear me saying, make sure you get your self-care with your fitness, with your sleep, with that basic relationship window of tolerance, so that on these outside parts of life, you can actually have a chance at thriving. And then we move up to intimacy and intimate conversations, and then giving really well socially. But after we've secured that we have a relationship window of tolerance, and you probably heard our episode on Monday where I talked about some ways I've been doing that lately, some shifts I've been making, you'll know we need to go to that next level, which is, how do I talk to my partner when I'm feeling hurt? How do I express myself when we're having communication issues? That's something I hear about all day long. I had 2 couples today just tell me that. So when you're having communication issues, oftentimes the work is the family systems work of, let's connect, let's talk about it, and let's acknowledge that it's something outside of either of us. We just need to find a time to pick that child up. We just need to figure out when we're going to have our date night. But often it's the deeper wounds within. And in internal family systems work, this would be a part of us called the exile. And that part of us is a part that feels cut off, distant, and almost like the child in us that we may have left behind a long time ago, who isn't getting the nurture they need. And maybe you don't think of it as an inner child or a part of yourself, but maybe that's still one great metaphor for us to explore today. And you don't have to, but if you're comfortable, that's what I'm inviting you today, is to see yourself in parts, to be able to say, yes, there are parts of me that, although yes, there's some external things I can do like fitness and figuring things out and compromising, there's also these wounded pieces in here in my heart that I want to address, but maybe don't feel permission to address. And so a very quick recap, which we're diving into deeper on the other pod, is that when we have this experience, often these exiled parts of us go away into our basement, so to speak, or into a corner. We shut them down in some capacity to say, inner child, you don't get the attention because you need to keep working, you need to keep going. And that part of us is usually our inner critic, what's called the protector. And that part of us is also worthy, just like that inner child, which I think we all know, the children in our world and internally, that's a worthy part of us, right? We stomp on it sometimes, but it's worthy. And also that part of us, that's the inner critic, is worthy because it's trying to protect us. So in our relationships as couples, it's important that we know not only do we have those external systems, but each of us often has these exiles inside of us who have emotional needs and wants and desires and hurts and wounds, and these other parts of us that are protecting. And often what's even wilder is that our protectors can go after each other. And that's where we crisscross into relationships, is when our protector says, oh my gosh, I see my partner's inner child, their exile, and I need to go protect them. And this is how I'm going to do it. And so we might parent them. We might, to cross some Enneagram in, bring out an Enneagram 1 part of us. If any of you have wing or arrow or R1 to that, we might bring out our 3 part to say, get that part organized. And we may never let them really do their emotional work. We might bring that 7 or 8 out, a bit of a firefighter mode. And that's another part we talk about in this module, this theory. So this is a very basic understanding, but I think you're getting the picture that oftentimes we really need to sit with our partner in their emotional space to ask about it and to check in about it. And when we do that, we have so much more availability together to talk about what's hard. And instead of us saying, okay, I can't relate, you're just a big baby, you're not very fun, you're just, needing to be protected, you just need a list. We're instead saying, I'm coming to you with what we call in the world of counseling therapy, but especially IFS, the 8 C's. And I love when somebody said on the podcast not long ago, let's not give everything a number. That really stuck with me when Andy Ashworth said it, like 8 this, 3 this. But it's also helpful to just have these words to remind you and to have an acronym, if you will, or some, I guess in this case, some alliteration going to just allow ourselves to remember at least some of these. So if you're writing down, you can write them all down, but otherwise just take in these 8 C's. So the 8 C's that you can come instead with, instead of this protector, will be things like connection, curiosity, calm, compassion, courage, confidence, clarity, and creativity. And you don't have to come with all at once. But what we would do in that moment, and everyone would do this a little differently, but you would say to each other, like, let's take a moment to notice what parts in us are acting out. Do we have protectors going? Do we have a firefighter going? Do we have a manager kind of running around? Do we have a child exile that's not getting the attention? The feelings are not being shared. The hard memories are not being lifted, and we're not digging at all to see what's really going on in our wounds. If that's where we're at and we can acknowledge that, we can say, can these parts make room for these 8 C's, or at least one of them, at least some curiosity, at least some calm, at least some compassion? And you can even bring yourself to a visualization, which I do on the other pod, but to allow yourself some space and time to just think that through together, to say, what can we bring in terms of one of these pieces to each other? So the other partner has a chance to dive a little deeper, to say, this is why it's hard for me to have this conversation with you, because here's what I'm feeling. Now, a lot of you are already like, there's no way, or as my son would say, ain't no way that my partner is going to want to do this feelings work. They're not going to want to dig internally, and that's okay. But if they do, if they're willing, what you might say to them is, in your own way, can you tell me if there's a part of you that's protecting other parts of you? Like your soft heart is maybe being protected by a part of you that says that it needs to get things done. Or do you feel like a part of me is trying to block your heart work? And allowing these 8 C's to come in so we can get the clarity and the compassion going can really bring a lot of peace and that calm that we're looking for. So that's an invitation for you to start a conversation around internal family systems together. If you're seeing a therapist, you can ask somebody who has done the training or trainings to do that with couples or with individuals. But what I really want for you to process with me today in this very short episode is that sometimes it isn't the external family system that we talk a lot about. Sometimes it's what's going on inside of you. And sometimes you just need to clear some space and allow yourself to allow for deep breaths, allow for some visualization, and allow yourself to notice which parts of you are acting out and why. And giving those parts attention and just noticing it, and allowing yourself perhaps to even bring some Enneagram work into that. Sometimes we even add in how old the different parts of us feel, where we say, gosh, these exiles, this inner child part of me feels very young. And when I try to unburden it, it sort of runs off or doesn't believe me. And that might be your new way to build trust with yourself. It might say, that inner child might say to you, I'm remembering a time when I tried to do this as a kid and I was laughed at or I was shamed. And so maybe that's a new insight you have for your spouse, that when they try to unburden you a little bit and hear some of this inner turmoil you've actually expressed maybe in a harsh way, but now they're trying to get softer with you, you might say, I'm just afraid to do that. So there's a lot to unpack, and that's what we're going to do in our deeper dive series. But I wanted to give you food for thought today. What can you take from today to allow yourself to see what's going on inside sometimes, not just what's going on out here? And maybe it's that you're thinking, I need a good conversation with my Enneagram 3 or my 2 or my 6. I have to start helping this part of me to unpack and let maybe my 7 out a little bit. Sometimes when I do exercises like this with clients, they actually tell me I need my 7 out more because I need a little more fun. Maybe that's why they're coming to see me. But often that 7 is really tamped down in people. So I'm just so glad to get this chance to work with you guys, to walk with you through a mini exercise here, and to invite you on the deeper dive on our other podcast today too, so that you could get your journal out and really dig into walking through. But take a nice deep breath. You did a good job today. Allow yourself to find that one thing you're going to bring forward. I'm so curious about it with you, and you can connect with us on our social media at Instagram or at the website, or if you're already working with us in coaching and you want to bring a bit more of this in, and we haven't done that already, make sure you talk to me about that. Okay, I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.